You are listening to the Music Ed Mentor podcast, where we still teach music educators how to build, manage, and grow thriving school music programs and have long and happy careers. You guys, I had a big old lineup of amazing podcast episodes for you, and now, as you've probably noticed, they would be completely tone deaf in the current society that we're in. In the last few weeks, the whole world has changed, and few of us have not been affected. It's amazing, actually, if you think about it. Our current situation has forced us into a reality that, if I'm honest, I had a vision for years ago. It is with mixed feelings that I welcome our new reality. I know how difficult this is for many of us to go through. Change is never easy, but it is always worth it. Exponential change is the hardest of all, but it is exponentially worth it. Our teacher hearts ache for connection with our students. Those of us who have had the remainder of our school years canceled completely, we don't have closure with those students who maybe next year will be moving on. And how on earth can you connect with your students when they don't have internet, when they don't log in, when they're out of touch? How do you teach them when they can't come into your music room? What about those students who are perfectly at home in your music room because they weren't at home at home? How do you teach them to play in band if they can't be in band? And how do you create a choir when you can't join voices together as a choir? In an effort to bring you some sort of normalcy, we're going to continue to bring you this podcast. We've been thrown off a bit on the timing due to the fact that both Smart Music and I have suddenly become leaders in this effort to bring music education online. Suddenly, everyone realizes what an incredible resource Smart Music is, and it's well-deserved. For this episode, I'm bringing you a conversation I had the other day with my good friend Jason Heath. We recorded this episode for his podcast, Contrabass Conversations. Our chat was so good and timely and contained some of my best advice for moving forward online that I've decided to bring it to you for this episode as well. I hope that you glean a few wisdom nuggets from this conversation, or at the very least, you find some validation and some solidarity together. Because guess what? We are all in this together. Hear me?
Hello.
You can hear me now.
I can hear you now. Yeah.
I'm so good.
That's great. I like this space. That looks like a really comfortable space that you're in right there.
So I'm at my kitchen table. And so I'm kind of central in the house. So I can kind of know what's going on with everybody. And that's pretty clutch right now. But on the other side of the wall from me is like our designated music room right now. So I did just have a euphonium and a marimba going, but the tuba player didn't want to practice with all the noise. So she's going to wait till after we're done. Yeah, it's like, I like in our house right now to having to like book the practice room at college. You know what I mean? You're like, when can I practice? When is it open? And that's kind of how it is between all the video trainings and stuff that I'm doing. So I need the house quiet and then all the schoolwork and the music practice. And it's ridiculous. How are things on your side of the country?
Well, it's so funny. Like I was just, it seems like just a couple of weeks ago, and I think it was just a few weeks ago, you were sending me photos of Big Sur driving up the California coast, and how much has changed. Oh, there we go. Look at that. Nice. Yeah. It's a bit, great that you got that trip in when you did.
I'll tell you what, it's serving me well because now when I start to hit like those points of stress, and I know from the outside, it looks like I'm perfect and everything is working out fine. And for the most part, I am because I'm wonderful. But every now and then I have like this crippling self-doubt. And I'm like, everybody wants everything from me. And, which is, going back to the point of self-care. But yeah, whenever I start to hit that point, I just imagine myself driving on the Pacific Coast Highway and like Big Sur and driving through the redwood trees. It was an amazing journey. I'm so glad that I got to share a bit of it with you by sending you pictures, and I'm sorry we didn't get a chance to connect, but um, it was worth it.
Yeah, and we'll get a chance to connect in person again soon. And I think we chatted. The first time we chatted was like in June or July or something like that. I know it was at my mom's house in South Dakota, so
Mhm.
it was sometime in the summer. And then we got a chance to hang out, and I'm so glad we did at NAM, which again was like 2 months ago, which is crazy. That. And I know that you were just like on the road, weren't you at TMEA also for a bit?
Yeah, so I did like 6 consecutive weeks of travel. So it was NAMM, and then it was the Colorado Music Educators, which for me is a big trip because I'm on the wrong side of the state from where the conference is held.
Mhm.
And then it was Arizona, and then Utah, and then TMEA, and then California. And it was amazing. Going with that theme of self-care, I did schedule in opportunities for me to explore a little and have little adventures. Like in Arizona, I went mountain biking in Sedona and Scottsdale, and I actually stayed in a cabin instead of a hotel, so that was pretty fun. And then in
Um,
Utah, I went hiking in Zion. And in Texas, what did I do in Texas? Texas was just playtime. It's so fun. I mean, back to back meetings, but incredibly fun. And then, yeah, my trip up the coast from Morro Bay to San Francisco was amazing.
It's one of my favorite trips to do. My wife and I love going down there, San Luis Obispo and that whole area, Morro Bay, and that draw. Yeah, what an incredible! It's a really special thing. It's funny. I had started to write a message to you and stopped a couple times in a row because I thought like you are the perfect person for, like, I have all these people fielding me questions about all sorts of things like online teaching. And I thought, okay, if I'm getting that, you are probably getting that, this massively exponential factor more. So, so thank you for taking you, somebody whose services are, have always been needed, but are all of a sudden it's like becoming like, everybody is getting into this online learning thing a whole lot faster than they were expecting to right now.
Well, I feel honored to be able to be in the position to be able to help people. And I got thinking about it this morning as I was presenting a webinar for the members of the Missouri Music Educators Association, that really we should be used to this, because when we start as music teachers in the music education classroom, very rarely are we wholly trained for everything that we're faced with. It's like you may be a professional bassist, but are you trained in how to do studio gigs, sitting in a room by yourself, playing into a microphone, recording the part over and over again with a track? So every chance we get, we should be learning something new. And this particular experience, yes, it is a big bulk offering of new learning opportunities. But if we take it in stride and realize that this is not something new, music educators, music performers, we're adaptable. We are perfectly suited for this opportunity and time. That's my thought.
That's very well put. That's and it's interesting to see people, embracing or freaking out to varying degrees. And I think last week, I tuned in. You were doing something with some folks from NAM, right? Were you doing a webinar with what? Tell me about that. I hopped on for a little bit, and now you were doing something for Missouri MEA, and I know a lot of MEAs are canceled. So it'd be interesting. Like, what were you doing with NAM? What have the last few weeks been like for you? Maybe this
Um,
got more general.
it's been amazing. And for listeners who don't know my background, so I'm a music educator, performer, all that kind of stuff. And then my master's is in business administration, so I have kind of this, solid business background. And I'm currently working on my doctorate of education in instructional design. So instructional design is all of a sudden what everybody knows that they have to know, which is how to teach online and in virtual spaces. So I had a meeting with Mary Lurtson, who is amazing. She's the executive director of NAM. And it was a meeting that we had scheduled since TMEA, actually. It just happened to coincide with when all the schools were starting to close. And so I said, you know what, Mary, I'm seeing this need for like everybody to come together and realize that we can help each other, that this is not as scary as it seems, that there's a world of resources out there, and we just need to help people know where to start. And using the power of NAM and their amazing membership and support, we partnered with NAFME. And so we could reach as many people as possible. We utilized my robust webinar system and experience in, coordinating all these online events and stuff. And we made a webinar happen in like 3 or 4 days. It was remarkably fast. And it was wonderful because we had more than 11,000 people register and we had 6,500 people try to get online. And the biggest webinar system hosts 5,000 people. So there were a lot of unhappy people who were in and out of the room, but that was the goal of that. And part of it too was that we wanted to give a space for collaboration. So as soon as schools started closing, I created a Facebook group where people could not only tap into me and my resources and experience with online learning, but they could collaborate with each other. And that group has just surpassed 35,000 members. So part of that, the purpose of that webinar was to point everybody to the Facebook group where they could actually get help. And now we've brought on additional admins. We're doing things like I did a little 2-minute video mentorship Minute Monday. Yesterday we did a Sunday support session where I created a post and they could ask any question at all, no judgment, and the experts would answer it. If not me, myself, I would tag one of the SMEs, the subject matter experts, right? And it was a huge success. We had more than 200 comments on that one post. So we're trying to do things like that. On Friday, we're doing funny Fridays where people can post any hilarious thing that they found in the week. And that also helps us to kind of keep the feed clear because with 35,000 members, we really want to target things. So the nice advantage is this group was created with a lot of thought behind it and a lot of guidance. So people really can get the support that they're looking for in that kind of space.
Wow.
That was a lot of talking. I'm sorry.
No. Faye, I am even more honored that you would carve some time out to chat with me. Given all of that, I love because I can think of in my minuscule version of that, people reaching out to me. I'm seeing some commonalities in what people are asking. What are people asking for help with from that group, or what are you getting asked the most frequently?
So it's been kind of fun to watch this transition over the last couple of weeks. So it started with people were just freaking out. This is a completely new thing. We're asked to be doing something that we don't know how to do. A lot of them tried to jump in without a lot of direction. So in that case, it was just pure triage, right? It was trying to comfort people and let people know, look, you can do this. Other people have been doing this. Michelle Rose, her blog is themusicalrose.com. She's been teaching music at an online school for the last couple of years. She's been doing virtual band. She's been doing virtual choir. And so she knows kind of the ins and outs. So we brought her on. She's actually been a part of the International Music Education Summit, which is kind of my big online offering, since the beginning. At first, she was an attendee. Last year she presented. This year she's directing our virtual honor band. So anyway, the point was week 1, pure triage, right? Everybody, it's going to be okay. Week 2 was supporting them as they created the structure within which they were going to teach. So their virtual classroom, their what are the constructs that they had to work within based on the direction from their, private lesson school or their K-12 school, a lot of guidance that way. So then it became, all right, how do I make this thing work within this construct? So now I'm seeing people now that they're calmer down, is that a thing?
Sure.
It's a thing now. Everybody start using it. #calmerdown. Anyway, so now that they're calmed down, now that they have their guidelines from their institution, now they're starting to create materials. So now all the questions are like, how do I, assess my bass student when they're playing a piece, and I want to be able to see both the piece and hear and see them play. Or maybe they're playing along to smart music, and I want to be able to see what's happening in smart music and see the student play as though I was sitting next to them. So that's becoming a really common question. What kind of questions are you getting?
Well, question one was help. What do I do? All my
Triage.
work is gone, and triage. And then, and I put together a blog post, and I was literally getting text messages from people. People are asking, what do you do? So I was like, okay, just get going with what you have. And, everybody's in a different place. A lot of the people that follow along with what I do are freelance musicians and teach privately on the side. So my thought was, okay, now is probably not the ideal moment in your life to go buy $1,200 worth of gear, though that's what you ultimately should do. Because the next week, similar to yours, people say, this sounds like trash. I connected, but the low E string on a bass through any smartphone microphone or laptop, pinhole microphone is like, doesn't even register. So what do we do? Okay. So then they're like, then the next thing now is, and I'm seeing memes, that sort of thing is like, okay, I've got some gear, but all my students still sound terrible because they're using their whatever, so just trying to get, and people adjust. I've taught via Skype and other platforms, FaceTime for years. It's never been the bulk of what I do. So like, I know some general things, but people are starting to realize that there is a whole lot you can do with these tools, but it's not going to be the exact experience that you're used to. Sound quality is just a different thing. Even if you're all mic'd up and everything, you're not going to play along together the same way, but it opens up a lot of opportunities too. So it's very interesting. I know that there's going to be some sort of blog post about like, where are we all headed for me soon? So I don't know. It's been really interesting from my perspective.
Yeah, it's amazing that we have to even tell people that synchronous playing is not a thing that can happen. And everybody thinks we're on the cusp of it because when you're speaking conversationally, it might feel like it's very synchronous, but it's not. Think about 20, 30 years ago. Not that I was alive 30 years ago. Okay.
Me neither.
Yeah, okay. So when I was still in utero, um, you could have a TV on in the living room and a TV on in the kitchen playing the exact same show, and they still wouldn't be synchronized. You've got the same receivers, you've got the same exact thing, and it's still not going to be synchronized just because of the way that waves work, the energy has to transfer. And so you're right. It's not going to be the exact same thing, but there are definitely opportunities for you that you didn't have with on-person or in-person lessons. There's so much more you can do for follow-up. And this is not something new. This has been being done for years and years now. There are systems in place and people that have been doing this, even if you haven't. So we need to find those people, and many of them are already coming out of the woodwork and saying, hey, I've been doing this. It can work. And here's some tips and tricks. So even if it makes it sound like the core of your lesson is just playing duets together. I don't know about you, but I've taught private lessons for 20 years. I mean, since I was in utero. And rarely, more often it's demonstration, listen, assess. Demonstration, listen, assess. And that is still completely possible with these online opportunities. Isn't that how you do it?
Yeah. I've been thinking about what people are now going through, and obviously my heart goes out to people trying to adjust to this. I realize how frustrating that is, but I've been thinking I shot my first set of double bass instructional videos, I think 14 years ago or something like that. It was like they've gotten 500,000 views on YouTube, so I've been playing around with different ways to do this. And I think anybody for think about how many of your lessons are just saying the same dang thing over and over, kid by kid. How efficient is that? How about we get the best possible version of that kind of common core knowledge? We get that out there in some sort of form. You take that in. Then when you do have this, the in-person session, which we'll eventually go back to, or the Skype or Zoom session, you can take the conversation further. It's like going to book club, but you've already read the book. And I remember talking to Hugh Sung, who is a pianist. He works for Cunningham Piano Company in Philadelphia, has done a lot in online learning. He's one of the teachers at Artist Works. And the way that works is or the way it worked at the time, the student submits a video, and then Hugh at a certain point goes through and watches all the videos and then just shoots his own response video, right? So now we've eliminated that. You're going to get great sound quality. I have great mics here. You're going to get someone thinking about it thoughtfully, so sure, it's great to chat in near real time like we're doing right here, but there's so many other ways of learning. And you were one of the very first people I thought of when I saw that the schools were all about to close. And I thought like, all right, we were talking about your International Music Education Summit, and it's like, okay, all events are being canceled. Okay, it was popular before. Obviously, I'm going to tell everybody to go check that out.
Yeah.
But a lot of people, and people in my sort of base universe, were planning on doing in-person events that have been canceled or almost certainly will be canceled, right? Coming up here, getting into the summer, even if technically you're okay, who's going to send their kid halfway across the country? It's going to be a challenging time.
So
sorry for the huge question.
Oh, no, it's perfect. So you're right. I have been doing this massive online event for the last couple of years. And to be honest, you said at the beginning, people shouldn't go out and buy $1,200 worth of gear. When I first had this idea that we could do a conference online and make it highly interactive and make it extremely engaging and create something that people will want to come back for year after year, which is exactly what we did, I had zero budget. I was self-employed. I was a single mom of 3. Okay. And so I believe in being scrappy. I believe in being a MacGyver. I believe in trying everything until you find the thing that works for you within your own budget and your own construct. And you just do the best you can with the things that you have. When I go to my pantry right now and it's dinner time and the kids are hungry, guess what I'm going to make? Whatever I can with the stuff I have. And so that's what you need to do. So the good news is, for people who have events canceled or they're thinking about having events canceled, I know how to put on online events and make it engaging and interactive and super useful for the long run. I mean, you think about a traditional event. You go for 2 days to base camp, let's say. I love that, base camp.
Base camp, you got it.
Mountain climbing, base camp. Okay.
Yep.
I love homophones so much. You have no idea. Okay. So you have your 2-day base camp, right? And just like we were talking about with private lessons, there's opportunities and there's advantages to online versus in person. And it's the same thing with a 2-day base camp. Well, in a traditional setting, you leave base camp and you come away with the knowledge and that experience, and that's it for you, right? There's no way to rewind the clock and review that bow grip session that you enjoyed so much. And you're like, but wait a second, Jason said that my pinky should be relaxed, or should it be more curved and relaxed, right? Well, with an online conference, you can record everything and make it available for your attendees to watch whenever they need to. So now little Peter, I'm going to call him Peter, our metaphorical base student, can actually get online, go to your session that was recorded, rewind to that part and go, oh, he said it should be more relaxed and curved. Gosh, I've been messing it the wrong way. And then, they're able to see your hand, and our listeners can't see it, but I'm almost flipping you off, but they can see your hand in the camera and actually have a closer interaction. And that's actually better learning practice, right? Is being able to assess, being able to review, being able to offer them support after the fact. And honestly, how do kids communicate right now?
Yeah.
It's all virtual, and that's been their lives. they've had phones in their hands since they were 7 or 8 years old, some of these teenagers, you know? So for them, it's second nature. For us, it might feel really awkward and weird, especially in the webinar setting where you can't see the people who are attending. You can read the chat, but so anyway, long story short, I know how to do it and it can be done. And I'm not going to tell you my trade secrets, but if you want, I'm happy to be paid for consultations.
And I don't want to send too many people your way if you're overwhelmed, but it's okay if I put your contact info up there if people do have some
Yeah.
questions about. Okay.
Yeah, and we were doing these innovative things months and months ago before they've now become relatively mainstream. We started a virtual honor band in October or something, and this year we're doing a virtual streamed choir festival and a virtual streamed band festival. And now that so many people are creating virtual choirs and virtual bands, we're actually going to let them showcase their completed virtual choir video as part of our online festival with or without adjudication. So these are things that we already have set up and we'd love for more people to get involved with now that they can start to see for themselves the value. I'll tell you, it makes my job so much easier when I explain what an online conference is, because now people are like, oh, right, you can do that kind of stuff online.
I was looking at the one of the few bright points of the stock market right now. Like Zoom stock is way up.
Oh, I saw, I'm as an instructional designer, I'm in all these, I'm in a bunch of music teacher groups on Facebook, and I'm in a bunch of instructional designer groups on Facebook. No parenting groups though, because I don't want to know how to teach my kids. I'm already a good mom. All right.
Yeah.
So anyway, but in these instructional designer groups, it's hilarious because like the second the first school closed, somebody posted, and just like that, everyone knows what we do. But somebody posted, Scooby-Doo. You remember Scooby-Doo?
Oh yeah.
And
Sure.
at the end, they would always unmask the villain.
Yeah.
So it's like this 2-frame thing. And frame one is like one of the characters about to unmask, and he goes, let's see who's behind this coronavirus plague. And they take off the mask, and it's just the Zoom logo on the guy's face. Who's behind coronavirus? It is Zoom. Oh, it's true. But there are so many amazing tools out there that the other thing I'm hearing right now from teachers is that they're almost overwhelmed trying to figure out which is the best tool for their situation. So we can talk about advice for that if you want.
I would love to. And it's been interesting just on a personal level, as somebody this is year 13 of podcasting for me. I'm no stranger to these platforms, but I'm thinking back to like 9 months ago, I guess at this point, when we were chatting for my podcast. And that was one of the first times I'd ever chatted over Zoom for a podcast. I'd done Zoom meetings before. And I remember thinking like, maybe I should try that out and play around. And today, Elisa, is my very first day of doing my own podcast on Zoom. I've done 2 already, and it's interesting using it for that. And my brain and getting the Zoom Pro account, and all of a sudden I'm getting all these ideas of how I can interact with my community in a different way. And it's funny, like the pandemic. Luckily, my wife's a doctor. She's fully employed. I'm just not on the road as much these next couple months, obviously. But it's interesting. It's started to make me reimagine the way I do certain things, and all this creativity in the music world and the music education world. I guarantee you, I'm sure you think the same thing. We're going to see a lot of people using these tools in all kinds of cool ways. So there is a silver lining in all of this for sure, besides Zoom stock.
Oh yeah, absolutely. The one of the things that I did not learn was a big chunk of music curriculum, which we are supposed to learn the standards, right? The music standards, national standards. One of them was to create music, right? And being a classically trained French horn player and vocalist, I never learned to create music. From the moment I got into a music class, it was notation, 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 learn how to play the notes on the page. And now the opportunities for students to legitimately create music from their brain onto a screen where they can instantly listen to it back it's remarkable. You know, it opens up this world to them of creation and creativity. So instead of us actually stifling it, and I don't have anything against reading music, you guys. I'm very into reading music and performing, all right? As a conductor even, 12 lines. It's cool. But that like freeing creation aspect is just so neat. Anyway, that's my
Yeah.
take.
I think about what I've done with students over the years in turn, like I used to teach electronic music, and there are all sorts of ways that you can interact online with another musician using some of these different platforms. So no, it'll be interesting what and like you said earlier, these tools have been out there for a while, but you know, we get set in our ways. I get set in my ways too, you know, and so sometimes, you know, again, silver lining that that definitely. I was just chatting with another Colorado resident, Susan Cahill, in the Colorado Symphony, one of the bassists in the Colorado Symphony, teaches at the University of Denver, and we were chatting just about about broadening your scope of what it means to like practice or get better or learn, and just thinking about working on your musicianship, be it composition, be it, you know, going on deep dives, maybe with some guidance into YouTube and checking out all sorts of performances that you haven't, going through the literature in different ways. So I don't know, it's interesting. But you mentioned earlier platforms. You know, we're just chatting about Zoom. What else? What other advice would you have for people? Because and again, people in my audience, we got private teachers, we got classroom teachers, we've got people, university teachers. We got the gamut. So what advice do you give?
Sure. So there's a ton of stuff out there. I would say start with having a list of what you need the thing to do, right? So, for example, I said at the beginning, if you need it to be able to videotape, your
I know what
80s
you
are
mean.
showing. Anyway, but if you need to capture the screen and the student at the same time and get the audio for both, like there's a tool out there. You maybe aren't going to use some tools that don't have that functionality. So have a list of what you need it to do, and then you don't even have to try it. You can just look through the, you know, list of features and see if it has the features that you want. So that's number one, is really filtering out the stuff that's not going to work for your specific application. All right. And then number two is to try it. Like just try it. You know, there was a time in my life Zoom wasn't part of my skill set, you know, just as I didn't ever talk into a microphone. And we all had to start somewhere. So remember back to a time when you had to start something new. Just do it. That is your first chance. Now, if you need it to be a really fast learning curve, right? You need to figure this out quickly. Set a timer when you first try the tool and try it for 30 minutes. And if you haven't made significant progress in 30 minutes, maybe that tool is not intuitive enough for you, or it's not set up in a way that functions well for you. So 30 minutes, if it's not working out, then maybe try the next one that meets your needs. If it's the only one that meets your needs, stick it out for an hour. But that's one of the things about a lot of these online platforms is they really are trying to pride themselves in this intuitive learning design, right? So those are my tips for when you first initiate a new testing of a tool.
And if you think about just practicing anything in life, you know, I've been working my sort of one of my themes for the 2019, 2020 year, you know, I don't teach school anymore, but I still think of that is getting better at storytelling and mastering the tools for telling better stories. So I have been on a huge Adobe products. I've been a Creative Cloud since like August, you know, subscriber. But it's funny, my brain isn't necessarily wired to work in that world. I've gotten much better, but it's like, okay, I can use whatever on the Mac, that I'm comfortable with, or my online product. And it's like, okay, I can get this image done probably in 5 minutes the way I know, or it's going to take me 20 in Photoshop, but I know I want to get better at Photoshop because I need that for my skill set. And so I've been, it's just like learning a new piece for me. It's like, okay, it's just going to take me time, and and then there'll be some recidivism. I won't remember the things the next day, but then I'll be a little better and a little better.
Mm-hmm.
And since this pandemic hit, I was going to be on the road a little bit more. I was largely done, but I was really looking forward to getting back into making YouTube videos, and I hadn't really done that since like September. So I got out all my camera gear and everything. And the first one, it was like all messed, like I look like a ghost. I didn't get, but I'm like, that's okay. It's just like not practicing bass for 6 months. And then the second one was a little better. And then like, I couldn't remember how to ripple delete in Premiere Pro, but then I remembered. And so it's just, you just have to sort of think of it, in my opinion, as skill development.
Yeah, it really is. And there's this term in the entrepreneurial world called just-in-time learning. Okay. So you know that there's this bulk of stuff that you need to learn to be able to do this thing well. Well, what do you just need to learn next for your next thing? And you're absolutely right that sometimes there's a skill or a tool or a program or whatever that you should get better at. For me, this is going to sound super embarrassing, but I only ever used Macintosh products until about not Macintosh. What's the other one? Microsoft.
Microsoft. Yeah.
Okay. Yep. So total Microsoft PC girl. And then about a year ago, I was like, to run the summit, I really need to have 4 computers. I need to have 4 computers with 4 monitors so that I can run 4 webinars at a time. That's my skill set. All right, folks. So I got talking to people, and of course they're like, you just need to get a Mac. You just need to get a Mac. And I'm like, I don't know. The operating system is different, and I don't know how to pull the menus up, and I'm not sure how to install a program, and will it work with Dropbox? And like I already have my setup. I'd have to learn everything new. And my husband, bless his heart, was like, but it's so intuitive. You'll figure it out. And I'm like, it's not though. It's not, okay? Not everybody's like you people using Macs all the time. So I did go ahead and get one. And in fact, that's the one I'm using as we speak. And it's the one that I've been using, and my daughter's using my other nice computer right now. But it was a learning curve. But like you said, it was something that I desperately wanted to get better at. So now I can work either operating system anytime that I want.
Yeah, I remember making that switch myself. I was on PC. I was on Macs way back in the day, like in the 90s. I had the Performa, I think was and then it was kind of the pre-Steve Jobs coming back days. And then it went PC, and it wasn't until about maybe 2010 or so I started getting back into the Mac world, and now it's been all Macs. But so I do sit down at a PC and have to sort of think about it. But yeah, I think I just like the idea of skill development and just thinking about whether it's Zoom, whether it's Photoshop, or whether it's what, and these creative brains that we all have, that musicians, that creativity and that inventiveness, and that music educators have. I can't wait to see what people start to do and experiment with, just in terms of these tools. It's tough, but it's exciting if you frame it the right way, for sure.
Yeah, it's been so fun to watch people recording themselves over their own sound and creating duets and trios with themselves. And now is, like you said, a great time to focus on your own musicianship, to really focus in on the music that you love. It was funny because, again, I have 3 kids. All play instruments. So my son, thankfully, his middle school teacher let us bring the marimba home. So we have a literal band room right now, okay? So my son's playing marimba, and he's playing what else but the themes from Mario, right? So he knows the overworld theme, the underworld theme, like the credits. And his sister comes up, his big sister, and she's like, why don't you actually practice marimba music? Like marimba music. They're probably listening to me right now and laughing, by the way. And I'm like, just let him practice for fun. He's in it for fun. And yeah, he can work on his scales and etudes and stuff later for his upcoming online marimba lesson, right? And I said, well, Trinity, what do you like to play for fun? And she's like, Coprash. Like just her most formal. She's like, I just love those etudes. That's all I want to play. I'm like, you never want to like play a pop song or whip out some jazz? And she's like, no, I just want to play those etudes. Uh,
It's so funny how differently people, even from the same family, are wired.
so,
Yeah.
we're a bunch of freaks in the good way.
Well, I appreciate you taking some time. It's been fun developing our friendship over the last coming up on a year. But I remember I was walking down the street just under a year ago, listening to you on Andrew Hitz's podcast, I believe, the entrepreneur
Yeah.
musician, and I was thinking of guests that would be great. And then I check out your podcast and I emailed you, and it's just been fun. I remember I was walking down Sansom here right by Levi's Plaza, and it's really been fun. What a crazy year. And our first conversation, talk about a moment of transition for you with the job had disappeared for you, your teaching job.
Mhm.
So you've had a real year of transition as well. And then all these conferences, was that 6 MEA events that you were at? Okay. And I know you're meeting all sorts of different people, laying the groundwork for all sorts of things, I'm sure. But
Mhm.
what how great that you've been. You just seem like you're in a really interesting place just in the music world right now. So
It
I
it
appreciate you
is.
taking some time as well.
Well, my pleasure for you. You're the only one. No, I'm just kidding. Um, but I hope this has been helpful. And really, just remember that it is a new skill set, and use the tools that you have and you have access to, and you're gonna figure it out. We are adaptable as music people, musicians, music teachers, studio musicians, all of us, we are adaptable and we can figure this out. And we can lean on the people who already know it, like yourself and like me. And you're welcome to reach out to me for anything, whether you want to bring your event online so that there's still something for your attendees. If you just want to reach out in the Facebook group and find all of those wonderful resources. And we do have so many people in there who have been teaching private lessons online, and they have so many more tips than we could possibly give in a single episode here. And just reach out and realize that you're part of a community that's here to support you and encourage you and do everything we can to get music into your own life and the lives of your students and all those who you touch, but without actually touching.
Exactly. Well, I will link up to all of that in the Facebook group, and musiceducationsummit.org, I think, is the URL for the summit this, and it's in
Uh-huh.
June, right? June
Yeah.
11th to 13th.
So we're doing the choir festival first. So
Okay.
that's going to be April 17th for the streamed festival performances. And then April 18th is one day of just choral instruction. And we actually have this choir from Switzerland who's going to let us stream a couple of their performances. They're amazing. So that's all going to be what is it, second weekend in April. And
Okay.
then May 2nd, we're putting on a virtual band festival. It's in collaboration with Mapex, Jupiter, and Majestic brand. Their parent brand is KHS. So we're putting that on. We're doing webinars all the time now. So anybody who has something to share advice-wise can put on a webinar through our robust webinar system. We handle all the setup. We train you how to do it, and then we let you just share that content to people completely free. KHS is also doing a virtual education series that's geared towards students. So last week we had Patricia Islas on Thursday, and she's this amazing composer and percussionist, and she was just outstanding. This Thursday, it's John Mliznak talking about creating music online. Next week is Pat Sheridan, the famous tuba player. The week after that is Andrew Hitz. So we've kind of got back-to-back amazing things, and you can follow all of this on that musiceducationsummit.org. And then the big event is that second weekend in June, June 11th through 13th. You're so amazing for knowing that. And it's the original event. We haven't changed anything. We have no intention of changing anything because it's always been online. We know how to do it right. And we want to just offer that to everybody to get professional development and connect in a really meaningful way.
It's great. I will be following along with what you're describing here, so I'll link up to that. And I gotta say, you have one of my favorite, just your own personal website, which I believe reads director, educator, consultant, author, podcaster, badass.
That's right.
And I agree with all of that.
Thank you. Eventually it will say online badass as well, but I'm going to hang on to the badass thing as long as I can.
Yeah, I love it. Well, I thank you so much for taking a few minutes. I can't wait to hang out in person again at some point, but it's fun to connect like this as well. And just, yeah, thank you so much.
Likewise. Thank you, Jason.
Woo. All right, cool. I will get this out relatively quickly here. Sort of trying to figure out. I've got all this stuff in the can that feels very tone deaf now that I recorded, of course, before this.
Me too.
Oh, well, the worst.
I have like 20 backed up. I'm like,
I figured. Well, so like the tough thing is, I always do things like or until now, I'd always been doing things like a month ahead of time. So I had these like totally tone deaf things coming out all through March. And now people are going to want to hear things that are not coronavirus related. So it's obviously good stuff, but now I can at least kind of frame it in context. So cool. Yeah. And again, just thanks for chatting. I seriously, I was reluctant to reach out just cause I knew I can only imagine how busy you are, but I'll get this out and, yeah, try to send as many people to everything you're doing as I can.
Cool. Thank you so much. And
I'll check out the Facebook group too. I haven't been in that yet, but that's an open, people can just join up there.
Yeah,
we do that right now.
We had it public for a while so that people could share things out of the group. But then there was some concerns that people were asking questions that maybe they didn't want their principal to see, and so I was like, okay, sure. we'll make it private. But it's still open. Anybody can ask to join, and we just have them agree to the rules. Like, we're trying to avoid a lot of redundancy. We're trying to keep the content very relevant, and we're trying to, like I said, make sure that everybody knows how to use the group to get what they need out of it.
Okay, cool. And is that an easy link to find? Is that just linked up on your
do you want me to share it with you right now in the chat?
Sure. Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay, let me make you smaller. I had you full size, so it was like you were in person.
All right. Oh, cool.
Actually, if I put you on my other monitor, it's a 37-inch screen, so you would be real size. What kinds of things are people asking you for help with?
Oh, it's mainly, share out, I'm playing solo online in an hour. Tips are, my Venmo password is blah, blah, blah. Share if you can. So luckily I hire someone to help me with some of that sort of stuff. So those just get sent to Trevor. And I mean, I'm not going to write a blog post about it, but I'll share the love as much as I can. And then just like we were saying, those questions like, oh, beautiful. Got that right here. Like, how do I do this online thing? What mic should I use? Why does everything sound terrible? There's a weird, it's like tech support that I certainly can't. So we'll hopefully those questions will calm down, but my email's taking a lot more of my time these days because it's like, greetings from Sweden. My microphone is making a strange sound.
Well, that's the beauty of this Facebook group is that we have microphone people in there. We have online recording people in there. We have like video production people in there. And so that's why I'm just like, I'm getting those too. Like somebody sent me a thing that said, I'm trying to teach choir and guitar online. Can you help? I'm like, sure, go to the Facebook group, point to the Facebook group. And that way they can get the better help.
Yeah, that's a smart thing to do. I've got a much less organized podcast group but it's more just like, but that's smart to have planned that out like that. And then that takes the onus off of you, for doing those. Okay, cool. Thank you so much for chatting.
You're
And
welcome. I hope it was helpful.
Oh yeah, no, this is good. This is great. This is just, it's all helpful. I think the event, I'm just thinking about all these people. I have this list on my website of something like 50 bass events, all of which I'm sure are canceled now. So,
See, and it takes some, I wish that I could just yell at all of them and go, we can salvage this. It's not going to be the same, but you can still give something to your attendees that is different, but equal. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I've actually had 3 events reach out to me now for proposals for taking their event online, and they aren't their events aren't until June and July respectively. Yeah. But I could have a small event up in a week.
Cool. Well, I always want to be sensitive to not sending too much, but if you're I'll send people your way then if they have like the guy I was just talking about, Richard. I'll say talk to Elisa, and because that's just been on my mind as I look at what was supposed to be happening June, July, August.
Well, that way they can still keep the sponsorships that they may be recruited. They can still offer something, like I said, to their attendees. It actually allows them to create an online platform where they can continually invite people back to view more. So I don't know. I mean, I've been doing it for so long that for me, it's like, I know what to do, but I can get how it would be so scary for other people because they don't even know where to start,
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I know.
Thank you for this. I am going to continue on my to-do list.
Enjoy. Yeah. Great chatting again. Thanks for taking some minutes, and I can't wait to hang out in person. We'll get another drink somewhere soon. So
I hope so. Stay well. Like I said, hopefully a few little pieces of wisdom for you in this one. At least you get to hear some of my best ideas. Of course, this episode is brought to you by Smart Music, probably the most useful tool for your students right now. Since you can't meet as an ensemble, now is the perfect time to encourage them to focus on their individual musicianship. At my house, we have 3 young instrumentalists, and I tell you what, it's like a band room in my house. People who take meetings with me are kind of getting used to hearing tuba or euphonium or marimba in the background of our calls. I can't believe how accepting, well, maybe I can believe how accepting our music education community is. We really are all in this together. So please, my friends, remember that for our students, music lives on, online or offline. Now is the time when they get to make it personal. Now is when they find their self-efficacy, self-motivation, and see themselves as the musicians that you're training them to be. Embrace this time and see it for its opportunities, and don't just focus on its challenges. And remember to keep teaching on.